Hi, this is Roberto Casada, and I'm here with Walter at the screening of Phantasm, remastered at the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville. And I just wanted to let Walter know that I'm a big fan of iWalter.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Yes, it's Walter. Let me just adjust my sound level. There we go. I can hear myself now. For some reason, I got some food, folks, in the background that I'm going to be eating, so you can hear me crunching because it's Rice Krispie treats. My friend Todd actually sent me some stories, so I thank you for that. He actually had some on his Facebook page. You know, it was like I said, by the way, they did not activate my Facebook page. They will not until after, I think, elections is my guess. So I can't do any harm. And Hillary's quest for the White House, not that I'd have that much of influence, but I'm sure they probably think that, you know, make sure this guy Walter, even though I really don't have, again, an impact, they don't want anybody to be influenced by me. So this will be my last show probably until after elections, because I'm sure next week I'll be very busy with work again. That's why I have not done shows lately. I actually haven't done, you know, a show except like one a week. I used to do like 7 a week. Now I'm only doing one per week at the least. Sometimes I may do an extra one if I have time and I feel like it. So anyway, and I tell you, one thing I'm going to look forward to, folks. It was funny. I mentioned to some friends, like, most people don't disclose what they make. I kind of do. This would be the most money I made in a very long time for, during the course of the year. It's not even up yet, but, just a little overtime I made last week, about $2,000, this week's paycheck. And after taxes, now this is before all the other things they take out. Just taxes alone, folks. This is before they take out from my medical and dental and everything else, my retirement fund. Before they take all that out of $2,000, I brought home $1,200. So that makes a lot of sense. So, hey, I'm glad I can support all these people who actually don't work. So, I'm glad I can actually fund their irresponsible behaviors by just taking pretty much actually over 50, almost 50% of my paycheck every week. So I'm glad I can actually entertain them and not myself. So yeah, what was I going to say? There was a couple stories actually. I was doing laundry tonight and I stopped by the Subways around my house. Really nice kid works there. I feel bad for the guy because he works there actually pretty much like 7 days a week. The guy gets no time to himself actually, I don't think. I feel really bad. He's really young, too. So, anyway, he had the news on in there, and he was asking me who I'm going to vote for, which obviously is going to be Donald Trump. I mean, that's a no-brainer there. There's two things, actually. I heard now that a friend actually mentioned it, too, in a voicemail. He's upset about it, and I actually saw it on the news. I was like, I'm glad you've clarified that now. But basically, that thing where they resurfaced about investigating Hillary's emails has now been dropped, which I think is the whole purpose of that. I think if you listen to Rush Limbaugh, he will tell you the same thing. It was just a way of diverting the attention off of her, believe it or not. Even though the attention was being placed on her, it gave them the opportunity that she was not basically voicing, herself in the media, because that actually diverted their attention from her in that way. Like, she was all in the news, but you didn't hear her. Because once she starts speaking, according to Rush Limbaugh, he says that her voter, the people who would vote for her actually drops. Like, once she opens her mouth, believe it or not, it just, it just ruins everything. it actually ruins her possibility. So even yesterday in Philadelphia, I think it was, or something, because it's still Sunday for the next 3 hours, they had this big thing with Jay-Z and, different entertainers, Beyonce, Barack Obama, speaking for Hillary, because, if you just have Hillary stand up and speak for herself, her vote, the people who will vote for her just like drops down drastically. So that's why they do that. Now, I do have some sound bites. For some reason, he was on fire on Friday, Rush Limbaugh's show. So there was 3 different sound bites I wanted to play. I try to mark them the best I can, but they are segments. I will try to discuss them as I play those. Actually, one was from Rolling Stones about this woman who actually got now in trouble for making up a story. One I always complain about, women accusing men on campuses, college campuses, of, raping women like at a large alarming rate. So there was an article, some woman, you'll hear her name, from Rolling Stones, who actually got, now she got charged with libel. I think it's libel charges, not slander. It's some type of form of slander. It's a verbal form. And then there was another caller who called in about, and Rush got into a little bit more detail about all these migrants and stuff that are being allowed in our, these countries, how the amount of destruction they're doing in like Germany and somewhere else. When I play it, it'll make more sense. Sorry, stuffing food in my mouth right now. I just couldn't wait any longer. So there's that. I do want to mention a little bit about Supergirl, too. I watched it last week, and actually it was like the episode that may make me want to stop watching it now. Hopefully not, because Rush has complained about this, too. The episode got very political. The only reason I actually ordered the second season of Supergirl on iTunes, and the reason I wanted to watch it, because it had also Linda Carter on there, and I really loved her, playing Wonder Woman. I think she's hot still. But it was so political, this particular episode, it just like really turned me off more than anything else they've actually had on the TV series so far. And it's only like, midway through the second season of Supergirl. Excuse me about that. I think really Hollywood needs to keep their freaking political views out of the limelight, because people actually take that at face value, unfortunately, especially millennials and things. Now, when I was in Subways, by the way, folks, I felt this was kind of amazingly disturbing. And what a time to bring this up. So I don't know what the whole story is, but I saw it on news, so I had to look it up. Guy named Todd Colehep is basically this guy they caught, and he's been cooperating. He's actually, like, in South Carolina, he's a serial killer who... They found many shallow graves of different people he had murdered in, I don't know how to say his last name, in South Carolina. So it's amazing how this stuff comes up now, because what it's going to end up being is like, one thing they're going to want to find out was what political party he actually stood for, because that's going to be a main thing. But yeah, you can find this guy. I actually found an article on CBS News, but it was on the live news tonight with actually him in orange suit, because they actually did catch the guy. But yeah, he's basically he's definitely down as a new serial killer. He doesn't quite look like your typical serial killer, in my opinion. But that was another one. Again, I got to figure out how I'm going to play, because I actually prepped this stuff last night for these stories, so I don't want to lose those. Also, I just have a couple stories that I had, kind of marked, prep my show a little bit tonight. But again, remember, it's only 2 days away now. Technically, it's like 48 hours until we start voting, for our next president. I hope it's not Hillary, because generally, I said to a friend, generally the way things go, it's like every 2 terms, it's either a Republican or a Democrat. Well, 8 years of one or 8 years of another. You never really, that I've known, had 12 years or 16 years of a Democrat or a Republican. It generally went back and forth just because people get tired of one or the other. So I'm hoping this pattern will continue and that we will have our next president be, even though he technically, in my opinion, he is not a Republican tried and true, which is actually what makes him a little bit more popular with many people, Donald Trump. That I hope people will voice their opinion. I know there's that issue that even though you will voice your opinion in the poll booths, that really won't make a difference because it comes down to the electoral college votes. That is true. But I still think that this issue should be, people should still do it no matter what, because I think when it's finally said, at least, it'll be seen that people are fed up with the whole political thing. Because actually, honestly, Trump does not stand for your typical politician. He is far from that. And that's a lot to be said there. People are just fed up with everything pertaining to politics, how corrupt it is on either side at this point, actually. Or that, I would have to say that, and I'd actually stand by that. I still would support, for the most part, the Republican Party, but no matter how you look at it, Democrat side is definitely more corrupt than the, the Republican side, but the Republican side basically is just trying to, they basically walk with their tail between their legs and will do anything possible to get into power, which would be basically giving up what they believe in my opinion. If it means amnesty for more illegals, they would do that. On top of, if that's what it would take. So it's stuff I actually don't believe in, honestly. So, I don't know where I want to go, but I do want to read this stuff. Actually, my friend Todd, I'll read this real quick, because I did have it posted. It was from the New York Post, so thank you about this. A teacher who earns $94,000 a year does nothing. Basically, he sleeps most of the time to make his money, sues the city to get back to work. The teacher who sat in a lounge in the library doing nothing all day, sometimes even napping, is challenging the city to make him earn his $94,000 salary a year. Basically, it says he comes to work every day and he sits down doing nothing. And this guy spent 15 years helping at-risk teens in the Bronx. So this was in New York. So, this is what you're going to get more of, in my opinion, if you basically re-elect another Democrat. Not even the same Democrat, obviously, because he's done his 2 terms, Obama, even though he would like to go further. But this is the type of people who will vote for Hillary, hoping that this Santa Claus thing won't stop for them. Basically, that's what it is. This guy's making almost close to $100,000 a year, not even helping troubled students in high school, and is basically sponging money that basically the school will give to him, even though he does not do anything. So I'd like to see that stuff disappear. Again, I do want to do these segments. I'm not sure how I want to do it because I kind of wanted to divide them up with from the Rush show. But, excuse me, I'm eating too. Some of these stories were actually pretty funny too. Excuse me. I saw this story more places than just my friend Todd sent it to me, which he did. But I might have to just tell you this story now because I just think it was too funny. A woman passes gas during surgery, suffers burns, causes fire in the operating room. I guess that stuff can really happen. The woman, I think it was the woman who was actually under anesthesia, the woman being operated on, actually passed gas during the surgery. My friend Todd sent it to me, but it was actually posted other places. Even if he did not send it to me, I would have found this story on my own. That's apparently how this was, I can't even think of the right word. It was posted at many different places on the internet, that story. So it wasn't just him trying to pass a fart, no puns intended. Not him just alone trying to pass off a fart joke story. It actually went further than that. Now, this was actually on November 1st, a couple days ago. And it says a woman passes gas during surgical procedure, sparking fire in the operating room, and even caused her to be severely burned, according to Miami Herald. The fire happened in April at a Tokyo Medical University report says that the patient, who was in her 30s, was undergoing an operation which involved applying a laser to her cervix. According to the reports, the laser is believed to have been ignited by the gas she passed. The fire burned much of her body, including her waist and her legs. Her condition is unclear. So, there is more to that story. The thing I think it's kind of funny, you never think about that, but laser procedure has become, you no longer just go under the knife. You actually, a lot of procedures, because it leaves less scar tissue, and it's actually a little bit more precise by actually, what do you call it? By using a laser, but a laser is, some type of torch, so to speak, and a precise one. And by that being so, yeah, gas of any sort, especially body gas, which is, what do you call that? Methane is definitely very flammable. I can't say that word. It's very, it can catch fire. Flammable. I tried. Come on, give me a break. So, yeah, you might hear more cases like that. It is very humorous, to say the least, but at the same time, I just saw this other story I got to mention, by the way. I think it's very funny. I get very easily entertained, as you may have noticed. I'm trying to post it right now. It was actually on the same page, or whatever you call it. Not same page, but the same link as the one with the person who basically caught fire from farting under anesthesia. This was also on this, it's called WESH 2. I don't know where that's located. I think it's a Florida thing. Paperlink. Man suing Popeyes after choking on fried chicken drops suit. So this was in Mississippi. Attorney Paul Newton Jr., who claims he almost choked to death on a fried chicken because he wasn't given a knife, announced on Thursday that he is dropping a lawsuit after receiving negative comments directed towards his family. So, yeah. Apparently, Popeye's Chicken, it's a southern type chicken place, is actually now been on the news. I just think it was kind of entertaining, so I have to mention that one. I want to make sure to play these things. I'm just trying to figure out the right point in time to do this. Because I could actually spend a lot of time on those. Now, this was pretty funny, too, folks. UK Daily Mail, a friend of mine, both my friends, actually, Matt and Todd, individually, separately, had mentioned something like this, that, what is it? That it seems like Howard Stern has just basically really gone off the deep end almost. Like he's gone a little crazed on what he believes on, I guess, political issues and other things. Like, he seems like a little unclear. And one person who had mentioned this was actually Artie Lang. And I did find this article my friend Todd actually posted. So it might have been my friend Todd, but I think it was both Todd and my friend Matt. So let me see if I can get that back. Here we go. Basically, it's from the Daily UK Mail. He's being what he made fun of. Basically, Artie Lang is referring to Howard Stern, because for years Howard Stern basically spoke like one of us. Now he's actually the people that he badmouthed and was totally against, he never, he was totally against certain celebrities in Hollywood and that whole political view. Now he is like basically everyone he badmouthed for a long time. I wanted to make a joke and say for centuries. Now Stern is basically as bad as these people are that he used to complain about. So, it goes on. Let's see. It says he's made fun of his basically Artie Lang saying that Howard Stern is now a big phony. Howard Stern's former right-hand man Artie Lang slams radio legend celebrity friendly image. So, yeah, I've heard about this, and they said part of this whole change in Howard Stern has actually came about. It seems from who he has now basically managed in his show or something. It's a woman who basically changed, Howard Stern from what he used to be into being Mr. Politically Correct, like to the extreme. Like he can't even make his own mind up, I guess, so to speak. I'm not going to read the article and destroy it like I generally do, at least on that one. But I just wanted to acknowledge that because, again, a friend did bring that up, and two friends actually, and I wasn't quite, I wasn't quite sure what it was about, and here my one friend had it posted on his Facebook page. So, here's another story. I'm just going to go through a couple. There's only a few anyway, and I can probably get focused on, more political issues since it is 2 days before election. A friend from ABC, Todd, had this posted on his page. I basically had taken it off of his. ABC News 27, police Bishop McDevitt teacher had 100-plus photos of nude student. And it's a woman again. So Harrisburg, PA, of all places. It seems like Pennsylvania's had a lot of issues with women, female teachers. A Bishop, did I say McDermott? It looks like McDevitt, high school teacher accused of having sexual contact with two students, had more than 100 nude photos of one alleged victim on her cell phone. Yes, her, according to charging documents. It's one teacher. I just don't understand that, why women need to or have this obsession with having sexual relationships with underage kids. The criminal complaint filed against a 33-year-old Randy Zarenko says she admitted to tracking more than 50 photos as she had sex with the student in the parking lot at Zarenko's home in Millerstown. She also admitted to she received nude photos from the 16-year-old girl. She sent the victim at least 20 nude photos of herself. So there's different victims in this case from this one particular female school teacher. Now, I know my one friend, Matt, you always say, well, it's Todd who... Well, Todd did actually post this on my page. I found it on his. My issue is, if it's a male teacher doing sexual... inappropriate things to young teenagers, that issue generally gets addressed right away and taken care of, to the point that the guy is never going to be able to make his bail, because generally the bail is set at about $1 million, something ridiculous like that. And it doesn't stop the issue completely, but it definitely makes, I think, more men who would probably otherwise be sexual predators probably think twice before they would do something like that. For a woman, they basically generally just give a slap on the wrist. And being so, hey, if you just give a woman a slap on the wrist and a small fine of between a few thousand to a few $100s, they're going to generally just do it again, knowing that they can get away with it. Because there's like this one woman I work with, a friend of mine's at work and coworker, Valerie. She kind of not said about this situation, but she said even with her granddaughter, she said, and not that she's done this, her granddaughter, but generally people, she said even, and this is a good point, that's why I'm using this and using her name. She said, generally, if a person knows they can get away with something, she was referring to people at my job, if a person knows they're going to get away with something, they're going to try to push their luck and see if they can kind of push it further the next time. And then they're going to try to push it even further the next time. So eventually, she says, my friend and coworker at work, she says, eventually what happens if it's not her granddaughter, it's not somebody at work, the only way you stop this issue is you finally address it. And then then that will definitely stop it. But people, it's just human nature, as my friend Valerie would say. It's human nature for people to push an issue as far as they can. If it's pertaining to work, yeah, you're going to push that issue, let's see how much I can get away without doing my job and how long I can get away with it. And then, if you can push a little bit, like I think the example my friend Valerie used was, she said it's like, okay, like when my granddaughter gets old enough to go out, she's going to probably try to push, hey, I'll come home 10 minutes after or 15 minutes after curfew time. And if that doesn't work, then I'm going to try to push it even further. And I'm going to change to see if I can push it to, after a while to a half an hour curfew time. And then when that works, I'm going to try to push it even further yet. And then she said, well, eventually what happens is, she could see this probably happen. I don't know, but it's a good analogy. That's why I'm mentioning this. She said next time, I'm sure her granddaughter or then push for an hour. It's like, and then you're going to finally get to the point you're going to do something about it. And, say, listen, you pushed me way too far. But unfortunately, in our country, it doesn't stop. That part of, like, let's see, hey, you know what? I'm going to push having sex with a 19-year-old or 18-year-old or 17-year-old. I mean, a 17-year-old. I think that's still legal. And then I'll push it to 16-year-old. Well, you know what? If that doesn't work, then I'll push it into, like, this has happened, so like a 12-year-old and then a 9-year-old and then an infant. And if it's not that, then it's pushing it the fact that, okay, I got away with it this time, because there's women that have been actually prosecuted, caught, slapped on the wrist, basically. And what they end up doing is, when they get away with it, even when they're like under, under house arrest or something, they continue. Once they make their frivolous bail, they continue to do the exact same thing what got them in trouble in the first place, because who's going to stop them? So the bottom line, it's like the same analysis that my friend Valerie made. The only way you take care of this problem is actually addressing it, because we have an issue at work where people really just don't want to do anything. They don't want to work, and they get away with it. So the only way you stop that nonsense, at my job, or you want to stop this nonsense with, I'm trying to think, the nonsense with people like having sex with underage children, is you address the issue and not just basically pander around it like, oh, this is not a big deal, it'll go away, because it won't. Because by you being laissez-faire with even adults, look what happens. Unfortunately, they push it further and further and further until, you got to get to the point that you say, you know what, I think I'll better take care of this issue now, which it hasn't happened yet. So I'm just saying, I didn't mean to go off that far. I actually didn't intend to go that far, actually, with that issue. Yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, I was watching, by the way, going back to that real quick. Already a half an hour. It's amazing how I can push time really quickly. I was really actually already disappointed. I know they made some politically correct choices in the movie of of the TV show of Supergirl. There was a movie years ago which I actually thought was kind of dumb, but at the same time I kind of liked it too. So the TV series, the first season, there were some points they had to make, again, things like politically correct, changing ethnicity of, Jimmy Olsen. They had to make him an African-American instead of, since the comic book was first written, and the TV series, that every series that was made, every movie, Jimmy Olsen was always a Caucasian, but they had to make that politically correct. And then they had to change other things to make that politically correct on the show. But then, for some reason, it was like an explosion on the show from this past week. I don't know what day it comes on, because, see, I basically buy the show on iTunes, and I watch it at my own convenience. So this last time I really didn't, but they had Linda Carter. She played the President of the United States. They did make a comment, basically a punny joke against Trump by saying Supergirl basically just said, well, I don't know why anybody would want to vote for that guy. And instead they voted for the woman president, who was played by Linda Carter. But the whole point was Linda Carter was supposed to represent Hillary Clinton. So there was like little digs like that. And then they had to really throw digs in on this particular episode. Again, it's normally not this politically correct, and this so far to the left on Supergirl. So I was very, very disappointed, actually, to say the least. But they also made the whole thing about, you can't treat illegal immigrants, basically. They weren't saying it, but they were calling like aliens from other planets. They were trying to refer to aliens from other planets. Don't judge a book by its cover, because you find at the very end of the episode, even Linda Carter, the president, is an alien herself from another planet. So at first I kind of had taken it with a grain of salt, this particular episode. And I was thinking of this show from years ago. If you ever heard of it, it was called Alien Nation. And that was basically where aliens from another planet, lived amongst humans and actually married. There was I don't want to say interracial, but inter-alien relationships, like where the aliens actually married. And they were kind of freakish-looking aliens on the Alien Nation, because it was came out of a movie, I think, that was called the same thing, but then they made it into a series. But, the aliens basically were basically married and had kids with the humans. So they basically did intermingle to the point that they, it was the whole thing. But this was like back 30 years ago, I think. I can't remember when. So, I was like, okay, that was, I never really watched the show, but I kind of accept it for what it was. But this one, they kind of had taken this like, oh yeah, well, these aliens from other planets, other, parts of the galaxy were living incognito and hiding as humans, but they really weren't humans. And, they were making a big deal out of, basically they were referring to, and I know where they were going with this, because it's the whole left idea on this particular episode of Supergirl. Now, I'll probably continue to watch it, hoping that if it gets any progressively worse, I probably will just say, forget it. I finally got to the point I can't watch the show. I haven't gotten there yet. You would think after this last episode and what I'm saying, I'm already there, but, I'm going to give it another chance. I try to keep an open mind. But when you basically throw down my throat, shove down my throat, and I know why they did this, because this is the week. They had this probably planned out, even though this was shot months ago. They made sure to, because they did change one particular episode in the first season of Supergirl that kind of looked like it was at the same time we had a terrorist attack, and they had deliberately made them change the errand of this particular episode, because they would find they thought it would be found offensive from a certain audience members who watched Supergirl because of a terroristic attack that had recently happened at that time. So yeah, they are very well aware, and they do keep abrupt basically the episodes of Supergirl on what is going on within the news. And, obviously on Tuesday is election day, so they made sure to get this episode in before Tuesday. Which, again, was, saying, oh, you shouldn't judge, basically, the way I looked at it, you shouldn't judge migrants. Hey, they're people, too, even though they're, from another country. You shouldn't be judgmental against them. Well, let's see. One of those segments, like I said, I'm going to play, which I should play that one first now, is how this issue with the supposedly innocent migrants has actually caused major problems now. Let me see if I can actually do that now, and then probably it would be more clear to see. So let me, get my mic around so I can do this properly. So you're going to see what I mean. Let me pause real quick and put that in. And again, this was from Rush Limbaugh. I'm going to play this one about the migrants first. and then go back to the what I'm talking about, Supergirl. So here we go right now.
Here is Stacy in New Orleans. Great to have you on the program. Glad you waited. Your next open line Friday. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Great to talk with you.
Thank you very much.
I have two questions for you.
Okay.
I'm wondering if you've seen any of the footage of the immigrant population who have taken residence on the streets in Paris.
Taken residence. Streets in Paris. Oh, yes, I have seen places where the cops won't even go anymore. Yes.
Yeah, it's like, I think the one I've seen most recently is in the 19th arrondissement, which is about the north edge of Paris. And there are mattresses and clothes and debris strewn everywhere.
Is it just the 19th? I thought it was the 14th arrondissement as well.
The one that I've seen is the 19th, but that doesn't mean that's the only place.
Okay. Well, it is. Whatever. It's so effectively now taken over, the police will not even respond to calls there.
Yeah, and it's just amazing to me to see that, I haven't seen it anywhere else on the news, but to see that there was no plan for these people. And they literally have taken them in, and they have nothing that...
Hey, have you followed what's going on in Germany?
No, I haven't.
It is an absolute disaster. Angela Merkel opens the borders and brags about the fact that she wants 800,000 illegal and immigrant refugees per year because the Germany birth rate is below population replacement levels. So you got a labor force problem. And it's totally out of control. The most recent story I saw, and it was early this week, it was from a UK newspaper. It might have been the Guardian, not sure which, but Germany, and it's not being reported on in this country because it would not be helpful to the pro-immigration, open borders crowd in this country. But it's same premise.
Okay, now I actually listened to it myself again because if I don't, I'll forget what that segment was about. But you can see, though, it didn't start out that way, folks, but you can see, though, where I'm going with this. Like, here you got this episode of Supergirl, and basically what they were doing was they were saying, oh, yeah, just because people are different, from different countries instead of aliens from other planets, they're people, too. You should treat them the same. It's not fair how people from other countries and stuff are treated like they're so different. Because that particular episode with Supergirl, one of the aliens was on a neighboring planet to Krypton that got destroyed. And the whole thing was, the Kryptonians did not like this particular other planet, neighbor planet, because they were basically like basically what they were kind of insinuating. This other planet, these people were pretty much the deplorables. So, okay, well, if they're insinuating these other people the deplorables, that's up your alley, Walter. That means that, and she misunderstood them. So they were kind of insinuating, I don't know which side was which, honestly, but they were kind of pointing out with these aliens, including Supergirl, because she is an alien, Superman's an alien, that they're, one side of these alien people and people on Earth were the Republican side, viewing the Republicans, how Republicans are shaded. And then the other side was the Democratic side. So, I don't know which direction, but it was kind of very obvious where their thing was, niche was, and it was like, well, you got to let all these people in, these refugees, or in this case, these were aliens from other planets, not another planet, but other planets, and how they're being treated like they are so different from, we treat them so differently because that's what you call people from other countries that come into your country. They're called aliens. Literally, the same word is used, alien. So, and they try to make it so political on how just because a person comes and, from another planet, a.k.a. another part of another country, doesn't mean, and they have different beliefs, but they look the same as us, but they have different beliefs. We should take that person as, with a grain of salt, that we should accommodate them in their beliefs and stuff and not make them hide in the background or whatever. I don't know if that's background or foreground, because I always thought foreground was the back part. I don't remember how that goes. Bottom line, it just really, for once, I mean, because I really did like Supergirl up until this one episode. It really pissed me off, obviously. So that was my first segment I was going to play from Rush. There is two more I want to go through. Another thing that is always an issue with me is, and I can't remember the last one, so I'm just going to probably have to play this. I put Rush Limbaugh on Trump. I'll leave that one for the last because I don't know exactly. I can't honestly remember what that was about. And I'm doing pretty good on keeping this show, I think, a little bit more interesting. I want to keep it that way. Now, one I always have an issue with, and God, I love her. There's a girl at work who does not share the same beliefs. I think she's a very cute girl. I think she actually is very intelligent. A girl that I kind of work with on the same shift. It's just honestly, we do not see eye to eye. And I've heard stuff, which, you know, I'm not going to mention her name, but apparently, which I actually don't have a problem with. She's married and she's a very cute girl. She's very smart. It's just that her political views, in my mind, are a little bit, well, I don't want to even say this, but I think she's very good to hold a conversation with. Obviously, she's not stupid. She's just a little, has an opposite opinion, completely different from mine. And one of the things that upset one of the women I work with is they said that she actually does not want to have children. It was like, well, you know what? That is one thing I don't blame her for. You know, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. There's certain people's belief that think that, you know, your sole purpose is to procreate, and which, you know, hey, it's important in order to keep, you know, the existence of mankind. But there is other people, and this is where I kind of stray from the Republican conservative point of view. We have enough children in this world who can't even don't have parents because they get abandoned or put up for adoption for other reasons, just because it was an accident or whatever. I believe, hey, you know, kids like that should be, you know, if you want to adopt, that would be actually, I would go for that more. If you don't want to have children, I'd rather see that, because if you really are not comfortable with, I don't want to say not fit, but because I think the people that are not fit, like the other day I said to a friend, this one younger woman, she was albino. We were actually in my parents and I met up with them. We're at what is that place called? I'm trying to think right now. Oh God, I can't remember. It's Boston Market. She was there, a single mother, and I would say she's in her early 20s. She had 6 children. They were all interracial kids. She was an albino Caucasian woman with 6 kids and no husband. And who's paying for all those children that she continues to have? It's probably most likely she's getting government assistance for each and every one of them. That is probably I'm not going to say correct or incorrect, but most of the time this is what we've had for the past 8 years, that you've encouraged people, if you want to have children out of wedlock, that's fine. If you want to have multiple children, the government's just going to help assist and father these children. And what happens to these kids? These kids have no father figure or no mother figure, you know, no parental guidance whatsoever, or very little, because, you know, they're not being looked upon, or they don't have the parenting around, like some families where I grew up. The nuclear family does not exist anymore. And that kind of stuff really pisses me off. So when I heard this one girl, like, it upset one coworker that she doesn't want to have she's married, why don't you have children? That is her right. That is her body. If she does not want to have children, I actually would encourage her not to have children, because I'd rather have somebody who says right now, like, listen, I'm not ready for children. I don't really want any children. I'd rather see that than you being forced to have children, or to have children and then just want to abandon them and then have me take care of them. I don't want to see that. I mean, again, I said that I had a paycheck that was this week from last week of working, where it was like the biggest paycheck I've ever had. It was $2,000, and I got $1,200 after taxes alone. That wasn't everything else. So I don't want to have, and where does this part of that money go? It goes to the school district around here and other things. I don't want to have to fork out all my money to somebody who just does want to basically have a good time all the time, and I'm paying for their entertainment and their children. I mean, it's not my place. So I hold this particular individual I work with, I hold her on a pedestal for that reason. That I have more respect for her just because of her belief on that fact. Now, there's other things. She is an atheist. I think there's Roberto Casada said he's an atheist, but his mother is Catholic or Christian. And I respect the man because I have other things that I can, I don't agree with his belief of, that he doesn't believe in God. I don't say I disrespect it or respect it. I just have a difference of opinion with that. But I actually, honestly, I enjoy talking to the man. So that alone is good enough for me. I mean, you don't have to see eye to eye on anything with anyone. So even with this girl, just because her belief is non-Christian, or no God at all, she doesn't believe in anything, she's an atheist, that's fine. That's her belief. I can't change her mind. So, but then what else? I mean, because I've said stuff pertaining to her before, but I guess I hold a different respect. Now, she is more, no matter who it is, she's going to vote Democrat, no matter who it is, or probably Libertarian if she could. I've actually, at some point in time, and this will be probably the first time, that I've actually seriously considered a Libertarian. You're probably going to get the closest, believe it or not, folks, if you're undecided still at this point. With Donald Trump, he is actually more of a Libertarian than you're ever going to get. I don't really believe that his views are conservative. In some ways he is, because he believes that the individual should hold on to what he has as far as income, and you basically the country will do better by cutting taxes and stuff. That's more of a conservative view, but it's just been recently, because he's actually pretty much all his life he's been more Libertarian / Democrat. So if you want somebody who actually is, in my opinion, on both sides of the aisleway, I think Trump would be, many people which will agree with me, I think, your best bet is to vote for Trump, because he is a little bit of both sides. I think he will be able to hold people's attention on both sides, basically, as well, I think. So anyway, what I wanted to get to, because I really did go a little bit, or very, sorry about that, my mic kind of went away. It keeps on leaning down away from my mouth. It's like, hey, I don't want to listen to you, Walter. You know what? I don't even want to listen to myself. No, I'm just kidding. Was this whole thing, and this is one thing, this is why actually I did bring up about this particular individual at work. She's actually fully convinced, that women are being raped on a constant basis, on like they're basically fending for their lives on at college campuses because of the amount of women being sexually abused on campus, which is far from the truth, honestly, folks, because most men nowadays are afraid to, I know I was after a while, I'm just afraid, and I am definitely now, I'm afraid to confront a woman, because I even said to the lady I work with, she says, oh, if you're interested in this woman or that woman, friend at my job, she says, if you're interested in this woman or that woman at work, you should just ask her out. I said, I'm afraid to, because even if you just say to a woman, hey, how are you doing? Right away, in their mind, it turns into an act of that you're a sexual pervert. So now I'm actually literally afraid to even acknowledge a woman's presence, that she is in front of me, because I said presence. You're probably thinking, what do you mean, like gift wrapped? You didn't say that properly. No, what I mean is that if you acknowledge a woman in front of you, and you actually might have an interest in her, you can't even acknowledge that you have a liking for that person because that's a female, somebody of the opposite sex as a male, because what it ends up turning into is that you are a rapist. And that sounds very exaggerated, but you know what? That is not far from the truth. So anyway, it's gotten so ridiculous. I know that's not really the way you say it. It's become so preposterous that somebody actually had taken it way too far now, like way, way, way too far. And it was Rolling Stone magazine, which I used to actually enjoy. When I grew up, when I was a little kid, my brother used to get the Rolling Stone magazine. Now, it's the brother, it's a Democrat, too, unfortunately. And what was it? He used to get the Rolling Stone magazine, but honestly, back in the day, Rolling Stone, my friend Matt said it's always been a little bit political towards the left, but not to the extent that it is now, folks. Like now, everything is so, what do you call it, in Rolling Stone magazine, it is so left-wing. It's just gotten, like, beyond ridiculous. Like, everything has become a political issue. So a woman, which I'll play because I can't remember her name, I will listen to it once again. This particular woman posted an article saying, made up a complete fake story, completely fake story, claiming that some individual at this particular college, again, when I play it, I'll be able to clarify all this information, or you'll be able to hear it too, that this one woman was raped by multiple men on campus. And apparently this story, I forget which school it was. Again, I'm going to listen to it at the same time that you folks at home will be listening to it. The whole story was found out to be fake, to the point that now the woman who wrote the article is been charged with how do you say it? Libel. I keep on want to say liable, but it's it's libel. So she got basically charged in other layman's terms. She basically got charged with charges of slander, even though it is written that the story was completely falsified, not just a little bit. It was completely incorrect. Now, by the way, right now, I'm looking online. I do see a lot of these polls showing that Trump is ahead, and I'm afraid to even post these on my Facebook page because once you do that, that's just going to create, in my opinion, I am that superstitious, it's going to create bad karma. So I do want to play this segment now because I didn't know about it. My friend Matt said this is actually an older article that that was this news actually happened a while back, but Rush actually said this had recently happened, according to Friday's show. So I do want to play that right now. I'm actually under an hour tonight. I might actually be keeping it within a normal time period. So once again, right now I want to play this other segment from Rush Limbaugh's show. Another caller who called in, and I believe it was a caller. I'm trying to look at it. About the woman with the Rolling Stone magazine, who a writer for Rolling Stones, who's now up on libel or slanderous charges for making a story that was completely bogus. And her reason for doing this, she says, well, I know the story's all, made up, it's fabricated, but she says, this is happening all the time. I need to make this, noted that this is what's happening to women, how they're so, what do you call it? And I do remember my last segment that I wanted to mention. But, yeah, I mean, again, I think the whole thing was bullshit. I still do. Women aren't not being raped at the level that the left wants you to believe. So let me play this segment now, another Rush soundbite. Here we go.
This is big news, folks. Rolling Stone magazine reporter, you just got the alert? Rolling Stone magazine reporter has been found liable in the lawsuit over the discredited article about gang rape that she made up at the University of Virginia. Rolling Stone found a phantom source, a woman named Jackie, that made up a story about being gang raped. Rolling Stone ran the story. None of it was true. And so a member of the executive, whatever you call them, the board at UVA, University of Virginia, sued Rolling Stone and the Infobabe, the reporterette. You know, I was reading, this is mind-boggling, but I was reading a couple of blogs in the last couple of days, and they were analyzing this as though the reporter was going to win the case and not be found liable. I said, oh, what world are you living in here? And they were getting into the minutia of the trial and how evidence had been presented. When the reporter was first challenged with the prospect that she had made the whole thing up, her reaction was, this is classic of her generation. Well, it may not have all been true, but it's happening nevertheless, and people need to be alerted to it. But you made it up. Well, maybe, but it's happening. It's happening in America, and people need to know. But you made it up. You just slimed a bunch. It's anyway. She's been found liable. I'm surprised it took as long as it did. It's a civil suit, but I'm still surprised it took as long as it did. Yeah, this Rolling Stone reporterette, her name was Samantha Rubin Erdley. And when she was challenged with the accuracy or the fact that she'd made up the story of gang rape at a frat house, UVA, well, maybe, but it happens, and women need to know it happens. Rape culture in America, but you made this up. It's like Dan Rather. You remember what Dan Rather said when confronted with the fact that his documents regarding Bush and the National Guard were fake? He said they may be, but they're accurate. That's what he said, Dan Rather. They may be fake, but they're accurate. Meaning, we know this happened. Yeah, we made up the documents, but we know it happened. They also said, Dan, you know, this documents are made. Hey, I want to break that story. Dan, you just did. But then what they do, they circle the wagons. Tom Brokaw and Jennings scheduled a special dinner for the American left and journalists to award Dan Rather, to protect journalism, protect liberalism after Dan Rather had blown it up. They circle the wagons. They protect each other.
All right, yeah, that was the next thing. And like I said, I mean, I mentioned this too, where this woman just basically lied about this whole situation where, women are being raped at an alarming rate on campus. I've said this before, that whole thing, I knew it was bullshit. So just hearing that just made it even that much more credible to me to realize that, hey, I'm not the only one who actually believes that this stuff is just total freaking nonsense. So there was one last segment I did want to play. I'm actually not even quite an hour tonight, so this is good. I'm not going to make it, something that is going to drive people insane, that it just seems to linger on. But the segments, like I said, it was like Rush was just basically on fire for some reason. I was really surprised. The last segment was something I guess I've complained about so often, and to hear about it, if I remember correctly, because I was going to listen to it before I actually played it, but I think now I don't even have to. And what was it? Oh, God, you know what? I actually do forget now. Let me see. I want to stop the show. So I'm going to see if I can actually... I played the one on Rush Limbaugh. Well, they're all Rush Limbaugh. What am I saying? Caller. He had the other one he mentions, Rolling Stones. There is one on Trump. Oh, I remember now. It just took me a minute to refresh my memory, folks. But I've been complaining about, like, I said this to friends, and then when he actually said it, was like, dude, you read my mind. Rushed it, because I'm just saying that. But I said to both my friends and other people, actually a guy at work, I said, listen, I think a lot of these women who say they won't vote for Trump, they're going to vote for Hillary because she's the first lady president, blah, blah, blah. When push comes to the shove, as much as Trump comes off as being irate and hostile, hostile, whatever, women want a strong man. They want some guy who actually is, can not only hold his weight, but is a real man. They don't want some wimpy, wussy guy. They don't want a woman in charge. They want a man in charge of things. And that sounds very sexist. It sounds very, you can't say racist. It's more sexist. But, and I just said that because I kind of believe that. I mean, that's why I have problems with relationships with women. Women don't like a guy who's indecisive, insecure, or who's nice. They don't want the nice guy. They want the guy who is the hard-ass, very obnoxious, very vulgar kind of guy. I mean, obviously, because that's even, now that I think of it, that's actually what worked for Stern for many years. And why did he get so many women attracted to Howard Stern? Well, it's very simple, because he is very, very vulgar and very forward with what he said on the radio. In real life, the man's not like anything like that. He's pretty much very annoyingly timid, probably. So, even more so, it's noticeable now with Howard Stern. But, and I said this to people, and 3 different guys, at least, I said this to. I said, this is going to sound really, really sexist, but when push comes to shove, these women who say they're not going to vote for Trump, they're going to end up voting for him because they want that strong, dominant male, the one who is chivalrous, the guy who is not going to he's going to say what he believes, and it's going to be very, up front, the woman's going to say, oh, this is very offensive, but deep down inside, they like that guy. And I kept from saying this, but, if you want to be very Neanderthalic, kind of, I know it's not a word, the Neanderthalic, I'm using that again, guy that will basically drag a woman by her hair, like a caveman, they may think that Trump is like that, but in actuality, do they want somebody who is got a lot of problems and lies all the time, like Hillary, or they want a strong, dominant male who is basically, in their mind, I'm saying in their eyes, is some guy who's gonna, like, if he was a caveman, would be dragging him by their hair. Well, I hate to tell you, or the guy who's going to put that woman in her place. It sounds really nasty what I'm saying. But come on, let's be realistic. That's what women like. They like that strong, aggressive. And I'm not saying this is the reason I'm voting for Trump. My reasons are because I'm not gay, for one thing. And 2, I just like the fact that this man does not hold back. So I'm kind of saying in an opposite way that, yeah, I'm voting for this guy because he speaks his mind. Well, I respect him for that. But it's not that I need a strong, dominant male. I mean, if there was a woman who actually could hold her ground on her beliefs and not lie about it, I would be in for that as well. I don't really care who the person is. I don't even care what nationality they are. What I am more concerned about of who's going to actually do something retrospect to what needs to be done to correct some of these problems, not all of them, but some of these problems that are occurring in our country right now. And I strongly believe that Trump would be the only one. I obviously, I've said this since, I think, day one, talking about this political issues. I really do seriously think Trump was the only one, personally, who, that would be able to fight against any Democrat that would come the Republican Party's way. I seriously don't think any of those other Republicans, when push came to shove, they're not going to be as aggressive, not as hostile. They're not going to fight back like they needed to as much as Trump did. And I said this from day one, and it's obviously gotten this far. We don't know until Wednesday, actually. Even though it's Tuesday election, we won't know until then. So why, Walter, are you saying all this stuff? Well, me saying this thing that seemed politically incorrect, it seemed very sexist, apparently did come up in point in a discussion on a Rush Limbaugh. So that is my last segment, and it might be the last part of my show, just to say, listen, no offense, but yeah, I was right about this one too. I just need to really hypothetically, I need to kind of rub this in people's faces that, yeah, even though what I said sounded really off the wall, that I was actually right on the money on what I was saying. Because actually, I'll have to thank this woman who called in, brought this up. That's what it was. This woman called in. She's actually got, I think it was an MBA or something like that. She's got like a high, it's past, I would assume like your master's, or is it MBA a master's? I'm not really familiar with all that slang. Rush was actually very impressed, but this woman, she said, well, they're saying the people who are voting for Trump are basically idiots, people that have no education or basically a high school diploma are the type of people who are going to vote for Trump. And this lady called in, she asked a question, do you think that maybe more women want a stronger, dominant male being our president? And I've said this all along. Now, this is what the woman asked, and Rush didn't want to answer that. He says, well, you kind of answered your own question. And she agreed with it, and she says, well, I hate, she basically said, you're going to listen to the segment in a moment, folks, and see if how close I am to being correct on what I'm giving you now. But she basically said, well, hey, I have I think it was called an MBA. And it was like, well, hey, I'm a very she's definitely a very well-educated woman. And she says, without a doubt, she is voting for Trump. She does not like Hillary. She likes what Trump stands for. And, what I just said, women, and this particular woman, who is a very intelligent woman, said that she wants to vote for somebody who is a strong male leader. So I've said this before. I'm sorry, my voice kind of got loud for a moment there. So here we go. I'm going to play that segment now, and you're going to see that what I said was actually pretty much correct. So here we go right now. Rush Limbaugh with the woman who called it. I'm going to listen to it myself in a moment, or right now.
I'm sorry, what was that you called about? I didn't mean to intrude.
I'm wondering if you think that there is a silent group of women who are going to vote for Trump because they feel more comfortable with the man at the helm.
Well, you would be better to answer that than I would be.
No, not necessarily.
Yes, you've conceived the question. The fact that you've conceived this question means that you are wondering if there are women scattered around America who actually like strong, decisive, confident men and are afraid to say so to certain people like pollsters because of what reaction, who are ready and able and willing to vote for Trump, and whether they'll surprise people by doing so. That you've been wondering that question, obviously, right?
I have. Mm-hmm.
Well, you are a woman. What do you think? The fact that you've conceived the question means you think it's possible.
I think it is possible. I think that there are a lot of people out there who are being shamed into thinking that they should be voting for Hillary because she's a woman.
Okay, yeah, I did listen to that again because I needed to. But you can see what I mean. It's pretty much I was on the money, I think, on that one. This lady, again, she's a very intelligent lady. There was more to that, obviously. I just didn't want to make a whole show just on Rush Limbaugh, because I've done that before. I made segments that were so long. It's like, God, I played the whole hour of his show on mine, and it's just like, it's not kind of like what you're supposed to do. So, yeah, that being said, I want to end with that because it is going to be, again, it's Sunday night, so you got tomorrow, Monday. Now, my show, I'm basically finishing up now on Sunday night. It's not going to be it's not going to be on the air until Monday morning. So, but still, that's still a day until election. Most people who actually will listen to me won't hear my show until around that time. So I don't want to go into any large discussion until I know what the outcome is. I do have my concerns that I think that Hillary could stand a strong possibility of getting the presidential election, and it's not going to be due to her being well liked or that the system is being honest on her getting that position. I think it's going to be, if she does, I do believe it's going to be something crooked with the government and with the electoral votes, which is basically, unfortunately, for a country that's supposed to be an open-minded country. I think it is very corrupt in a lot of ways, and the only way it's going to get straightened or get close to what I've been asking for like a long time, for many elections past, was to get somebody like Donald Trump, because that's the closest, folks, I believe we will get with this man. And my personal belief, the closest we're going to get to actually getting somebody who, the closest we're going to get to, like, basically overthrowing the government, the government. Because, like, right now, I mean, that was always written in, I believe, the Constitution, that, hey, if you don't like what's going on at any point in time, you can overthrow basically the government. You can just basically start all over, which at this point is pretty much, I would say, physically impossible to do. Just because there's the government has such a stronghold over our country. But by electing somebody like Donald Trump, this is the closest we're going to get to doing something like that, in my opinion. So that being said, this is one of the reasons I would like to see the man get elected. Again, we won't know until Wednesday. I mean, it could be another 4 years, unfortunately, or 8 years of another Democrat, which is, and this is going to be the last chance, unfortunately, for a Republican to actually win the House and maybe eventually the Senate at this point. Because if we don't get it this time, on the Republican side, I don't think we're going to get a chance ever again, almost. I hope not. So, a friend just sent me this article because I am ready to end my show a little bit after an hour. He actually my friend Todd found this thing. It was from the Resistance, the last line of defense. It says, van full of illegals show up to vote Clinton at 6 polling places, still think voter fraud is a myth. So there you go. And they're showing a picture of it. This is not made up, folks. That it was a van, literally a white van filled with illegal immigrants, and they're all voting for Hillary Clinton. Fox 10 in Phoenix. Democrats want you to think that voter fraud is a myth, but that's because the Democratic Party benefits so much from it. In July, Election Justice USA, for example, reported that without Clinton's team committing innocuous acts of voter fraud, Sanders would have been the man to lose to Donald Trump in the national election instead of pantsuit McCriminal. And what happened Friday is absolute proof that will do literally anything, that they will do anything to win. So, yeah, this is an article. I think he just posted it, so thank you, Todd. That, yeah, they just got caught with their pants down, so to speak, the Democrats, where they do have illegal immigrants, a van full of them, and they were all there to vote for, Hillary Clinton. This is for the I consider it like a pre-election, the pre-election votes. So, I mean, that's actually, honestly, that is very, very scary to know that stuff like this is going on, and what extent they will go to win this election. And it obviously has been very difficult for them because they have somebody like Hillary where they don't otherwise will not stand a chance unless they do things on a crooked level, unfortunately. So, yeah, folks, this is Walter, by the way, from iWalter. Again, I always say this a lot, but, I hope you enjoy what I had mentioned. I hope you do go out to vote. I can't tell you how to vote. I can only hope that you vote for Trump, but I can't, I can't make anybody vote for anybody, but I would definitely look very closely. Do your own research and don't depend on, what you hear on the news, because especially almost any news source has basically swayed their opinion to what they want you to believe or how they want you to vote, which I honestly don't agree with. I have always, since day one when I was taken more seriously about how important it is to vote for in any election, I've always made up my own, had made my own decision and not depended on other people's persuasion on me to make my decision for me. I make my own decision. I think you should do the same. I'm just giving you what I found out, and you're going to see, because even I think who was it? There's one guy who actually made an anti-Trump film after the Hillary's America came out, and I can't remember the guy's name, and he does that every single time there's an election. He puts out these anti-Republican films. And I hate to tell this dude, I can't remember his name, but no offense, but Trump technically really is not ever been a politician, and he really does not fully fit into the category of being what would be the stereotypical Republican, which again, I think and I hope will help persuade people maybe to actually vote for him. And you will get, hey, if you want to vote for a libertarian or somebody who is an independent, this is the closest you're going to get with Donald Trump, so please do so. This is Walter from iWalter, and yes, I am signing off for now. Have a good night, everyone, and remember to vote this Tuesday coming. Thank you.